What's up, everyone? Welcome to the Entertainment Channel. Today is Wednesday, August 13th. I'm going to be talking about some things that have happened on August 13th throughout the Chicago Cubs history. If you haven't been to my channel before, I primarily talk about sports with a pretty big focus on Chicago sports. So you know I got to talk about my Cubbies, but I also do love history. I'm kind of a history nerd. So why not bring those two things together? Some Chicago Cubs, some history that has happened for the Chicago Cubs, and boom, we have this Today in Cubs, or Today in Chicago Cubs history little series that I've got going on. If you haven't already done so, hit the like button, drop a comment, hit subscribe. We're growing the Ant Farm, guys, y'all. You're here early while we start to boost up the channel. But without any further ado, let's get right into it. So today in Cubs history, August 13th, 1906, Cubs Jack Taylor, the pitcher, was knocked out by Brooklyn in the third inning, ending a string of 187 complete games, 15 relief appearances in which he finished each game. His record began June 20th, 1901, and in 10 years, he failed to finish only 8 out of his 286 starts. So that means he completed 280 games out of 286, which is absolutely insane, no matter what era you're in. I mean, nowadays pitchers, sometimes they hold them to like 80 pitches and they're out. This dude was doing 100, 200 pitches like every other day probably. So let's pull him up real quick. So I did get a little picture of him here, and the dude looks like a badass, to be quite frankly with you. I guess everybody back then did. Who knows what they saw, what they did. But before I get into that, shout out to Bleed Cubby Blue, guys. They do this pretty sick series called Baseball History Unpacked. So they have different stuff that's happened on this date for the Cubs, for different MLB teams. So definitely check out the website if you haven't already done so. This is one of the websites I use to find some of these different historical things that have happened throughout the Cubs history. But back to what I was talking about. So today, August 13th, 1906, Jack Taylor's 187 complete game streak ended. So August 13, 1906, Jack Taylor, former Chicago Cub pitcher, his 187 straight complete games, that streak ended. Yeah, you heard me correctly. This dude finished 187 straight games with a complete game. I don't even understand how that makes any sense. But Jack Taylor completed 187 consecutive starts from 1901 to 1906. During his 10-year career, he completed 97% of his starts and won 152 games. He had probably his best season in 1902. He led the NL with a 1.29 ERA, 8 shutouts, and he won 23 games. He won 21 games the next year for the Cubbies, and they finished third in the league. What's crazy, though, this guy's story gets even crazier. He was actually accused of throwing games or fixing games in a postseason exhibition series against the crosstown Chicago White Sox, and he ended up getting traded to the St. Louis Cardinals that December. For another pitcher that we had, Mordecai Brown, which I talked about him before, Three Finger Brown. So these two like crazy historical figures in Chicago Cubs lore are connected. Jack Taylor, Mordecai Brown. And some of these stories just kind of write themselves. Like, first of all, how the hell do you start 187 consecutive games? And then how do you complete those games? Throwing 187 complete games in a row is absolutely insane. And that stat that he completed 97% of his starts, I mean, that doesn't even make sense anymore. 97% of the games doesn't necessarily mean he won, but dude was just going the distance, pitching 9 innings every time that he got out on the mound. And then it's kind of crazy that he got accused of fixing a game against the White Sox, which we know the Black Sox ended up happening in 1919, so only about, 13, 14 years later. And then he gets traded to the St. Louis Cardinals. So you got the Cubs, the Cardinals, the White Sox, a little bit of everything from the Midwest, from Illinois. Probably the 3 teams people root for the most. But shout out to Jack Taylor, man. Crazy to think that 1906, August 13th, he ended his 187 complete game streak where he was just finishing every game. Had a 10-year streak, only finished 8 out of 286 starts. Like, these stats don't even make sense to me. But drop a comment. Let me know what you guys think, because that's crazy. Imagine somebody now like, yo, they barely get to that long of a career, let alone consecutively finishing 187 starts, 187 games, and 15 relief appearances. So pretty much when you put this guy in, you know that he was going to do something, and he looks the part. I mean, John William Taylor, Jack Taylor, this dude looks like he's been through it. I mean, take a look at him. Those eyes have seen some things. That face looks like it's taken some punches. And he obviously could pitch his ass off. Did get accused of cheating a little bit, but hey, if it's not proven innocent until guilty or whatever it's called. So innocent until proven guilty. There we go. So Jack Taylor, my bad, I confusing Mordecai Brown with Jack Taylor. But Jack Taylor never got found guilty, so we're just going to go with those were accusations. He was nicknamed Brewery Jack and Brakeman Jack as he apparently worked in the capacity in the offseason. So do like to drink or work at breweries and do like to work on breaks. Seems like a super old school, chill dude. And you see some of his stats here. NL ERA leader, 1902. Complete games, 1904. Shutouts, 1902. He had 6 15-win seasons, 4 20-win seasons. He pitched 200 innings 8 times in a season and 300 innings pitched in a season 6 times. So dude was an absolute workhorse. If you think of a guy that can pitch every game, every inning, Jack Taylor is that guy. So shout out to Jack Taylor. Moving on to the second thing that happened today in Cubs history. Just a little bit closer to history, but we're still pretty far. 1959. What is that? 25 plus 40, 65 plus 1. 66 years ago, guys. Look at that math. That's old school math, guys. And I had to bring out the paper right here in the noggin. But today, August 13th, 1959, the Giants and the Chicago Cubs, they set a record for the longest nine-inning game in history. They played 3 hours and 50 minutes. The Cubs ended up winning 20-9. They had 19 hits, 5 home runs, 3-time All-Star George Altman led the way for the Cubs, 5 hits, 5 RBIs with 2 home runs. Cubs legend Ernie Banks, he was also on this team. A little bit less exciting, but 1 hit, 4 walks, so he was getting on base. It's crazy to think that that's still the longest game. I mean, a lot of people think that baseball games are like 9 hours. If you're not a baseball fan, you're probably like, yo, baseball's way too long. I don't have that much time to sit there. This is the longest 9-inning game. There's longer like extra inning games. Extra innings means you go past the 9th inning. You're tied. You got to keep playing until someone wins. But the longest regular season 9-inning game history, 3 hours and 50 minutes. So August 13th, 1959, Giants Cubbies set the record for the longest 9-inning game in MLB history, 3 hours and 50 minutes. Cubs ended up winning 20-9. They had 19 hits, 5 home runs. 3-time All-Star George Altman had 5 hits, 5 RBIs, 2 home runs. Ernie Banks had 1 hit, 4 walks. And just an absolute classic game. And it's crazy to think 61 years later, this is still the longest game or 9-inning game in MLB history. And they throw a little bit of everything in there. So you could see, man, off the rip, this was a high-scoring game. These are probably the innings that took the longest, I'm going to guess. You see, they're both scoring first, second, third, fourth. So they're going at it, going back and forth, and everybody seems to be doing something. You see a bunch of home runs on here for the Giants, those 5 home runs on here for the Cubbies. And I actually was able to find some footage, not of the actual game I'm talking about, unfortunately, but from 1959, where there was a game, Cubs at San Francisco. So this game that I'm talking about that set the record, that was in Chicago. But I figure this is kind of sick, just showing you guys a little bit of who those players were, what the game looked like back then. But this is April of 1959, so still a couple of months before the game that I'm talking about that happened today. And you'd be surprised, guys. Jump on YouTube. There's a ton of like old random footage. Not anybody specifically. It kind of seems like it's just people that somehow have the footage, whether it's like an old tape, an old something that they found, but uploading them on here. And it looks crazy, man. Uniforms still kind of look similar. This look a lot thicker. That's what's funny to me is the fence is this old school regular chain link fence. Let's see this dude right here. Look at that. Gets plunked. Boom. You still just take it. Go to first. He's just running like that, man. I wish there was a way to just see these guys play today. I'm sure a lot of them wouldn't be able to keep up, but I still think the stars, the studs of back then, they could play. I don't see why not. That's another thing is how is everybody in the stands wearing like suits? I'll never understand that trend. I'll never understand why everybody wanted to be sweaty and musty going everywhere in the world. But pretty crazy footage right here, just kind of excitement, seeing random stuff coming up now. But just the excitement of knowing that game back in the day, 20-9, offense was going crazy. So that's the second thing that happened today. So far we got two things. Jack Taylor, he ends 187 consecutive starts or completed on this day in 1906. And then also Cubbies and Giants, they set the record for the longest 9-inning game in history, playing 3 hours and 50 minutes. Then the third thing that happened today, moving right along. Today, August 13th, 1987, the Cubs retire Hall of Famer Billy Williams uniform number 26. Billy Williams was a 1961 Rookie of the Year. He was a 6-time All-Star. From 1963 to 1970, he played in 1,117 consecutive games, which was a National League record at the time. And the crazy part is he ended the streak by asking for a day off on September 3rd, 1970. So this dude had the record for most consecutive games played in the National League, 1,117, and then just randomly decided on September 3rd, 1970, yo, I just need a day off. Let me go ahead and take a breather. So he ended the streak there. The streak has since been broken. But Billy Williams, sweet swinging Billy from Whistler, just a stud back in the day, 6'1", 175, probably looked like an absolute unit back in these 1950s when he was, or 1980s, my bad. No, he did play in the 50s, and not the 50s. I'm tweaking. Like, all these dates, I keep looking up, and I'm like, yeah, he played in the 50s, played in the 60s. No, he played, in the 60s. I'm correct, 60s and 70s. So shout out to Billy Leo Williams, man. And they got everything on here. If you guys are nerds like I am, get on Baseball Reference. They got a little bit of everything on here. Talk to you about it. And crazy thing I found out today, too, was that Williams actually finished second in the MVP race twice, and both times he came short, losing to Johnny Bench. So it's crazy to think about that historically, like how you always think nobody remembers second place. It's literally that way. We remember the MVPs, we remember the champions, we remember a lot of that stuff. You never remember who's second, and that's sad for them. But that's just kind of how it goes. Too many sports, too many things to keep up with. He ended up getting dealt to the Oakland Athletics. And the crazy part is he only played one time in the postseason. And you look back at some of these teams here. I mean, the Cubbies had some names, man. They had Ernie Banks, Ferguson Jenkins, Ron Santo, and Williams, and they could just never even make the postseason. So really big. This is probably the most recent, memorable for people like myself that are, 90s, maybe people born in the 80s. You remember hearing, I never got to see him play. Never even got to see the jersey retire because I wasn't born until 1993. But I still remember hearing about him, how good he was growing up and hearing that name and kind of that Chicago Cubs lore. So just to wrap that part back and give you guys a quick recap. Billy Williams, today, August 13th, 1987, the Cubs retired his jersey, number 26. Williams was the 1961 Rookie of the Year, 6-time NL All-Star, and from 1963 to 1970, he played in 1,117 consecutive straight games, which was a National League record at the time. And the craziest part about it is that he ended the streak by just asking for the day off on September 3rd, 1970, which can't decide if that's a weak move or a G move. But how good this guy was at baseball, it has to be a G move. I can't even deny it. Hall of Famer, retired number with the Chicago Cubs. Come on, Billy. You did the right thing, had the record, let it go on your own terms, and you got to respect that. So those are the three things that happened today in Cubs history, guys. So today in Cubs history, on this date, August 13th, 1906, Cubs' Jack Taylor is knocked out by Brooklyn in the third inning, ending a string of 187 complete games and 15 relief appearances in which he finished the game. The second thing that happened today in Cubs history, the Giants and Cubs set a record for the longest 9-inning game in MLB history, which was 3 hours and 50 minutes, and the Cubbies beat the Giants 20-9. The third thing that happened today in Cubs history, August 13th, 1987, Cubs retire Hall of Famer Billy Williams uniform number 26. And Williams was a 1961 Rookie of the Year, 6-time All-Star, and once held the record for consecutive games played in the National League with 1,117 games before he just randomly asked to have a day off on September 3rd, 1970. So a couple of really cool stories. Definitely, if you want to do some additional research, jump on bleedcubbyblue.com. Check out Baseball Reference. They got a ton of different stuff, not only about the Cubs, but if you're interested in any other teams, it's always fun and cool just kind of seeing what the game used to look like. So those are the three things that happened today in Cubs history. But the good thing is, where you at? Where you at? We got one more. We got one more. So this is not something that happened on Cubs history, but it's super interesting fact. So when I was looking into some of these historical things that happened for the Chicago Cubs, things that took place on this day and throughout history, I actually ended up coming out with an interesting fact. So not sure who knows this, but did you know that the MLB played 2 All-Star games from 1959 to 1962? So they would host 2 All-Star games. The whole reasoning behind it, of course, was money. The motivation was pretty much saying that the more we play this extra game, we could put more money into the pension fund. It was straight up controversial right away. So I'm looking at some of the history on it. Let's pull it up here. So the 2 All-Star game era, 1959 to 1962, MLB hosted 2 All-Star games, which sounds absolutely crazy. So let's see what they got here. The players, led by Phillies pitcher and Hall of Famer Robin Roberts, devised a plan to raise more money for the pension funds, which was created in 1947 and distributed only a modest payment to retirees. The dual All-Star games was controversial from the get-go. Some hailed a setup that brought stars from both leagues into more cities. So that kind of makes sense, like, hey, back then there's no TV. There was not as many interleague games. So people didn't really get to see all these guys play at once. So that's kind of the reasoning, I guess, to try to build popularity. But a lot of people did just think it was greedy, thought it was all about money. Chicago White Sox pitcher Early Win, great name, actually, Early Win. He said it's the phoniest front baseball's put up in 20 years. They'll get a pot full of money out of it this year, but wait until the novelty wears off. The game value is in its uniqueness. 2 games a year will cheapen it in the long run. So to me, that sounded interesting because you think about now how they're like, how do we motivate these guys? What do we do? And you can already see back then they knew it could get watered down the more you play. And back then they were fighting to make money. Now they want to get paid just to play during this game. So you kind of see the same thing has been taking place. And realistically, if you think that people have been trying to sell the game, it looks like it was happening way earlier. So let me know, did you know that the MLB had 2 All-Star games from 1959 to 1962? A lot of it was kind of led by money. Players thought that if they played this extra game, they would use more of that fund to go towards the pension so more people could get paid when they retired. They did end up returning to a single All-Star game in 1963 after owners kind of got tired of the logistics of playing 2 games, how it impacted the pennant race, and just really finding it more difficult to squeeze in 2 All-Star games in a 162-game season. And they finally agreed to funnel 95% of the All-Star gate and broadcast revenues to the pension fund. So ultimately, the players got what they wanted. They got more money towards their pension fund, which definitely helps out probably more of the average players that don't make it in the league and don't make as much money, especially back then when you consider how much they were making compared to the hundreds of millions they make now. But just absolutely blew my mind. I did not know that the MLB had 2 All-Star games from 1959 to 1962. So take a look at that. Do some research. There's a lot that goes into it. I could probably make an entire video just about that. I started finding a couple articles, couple different things out there, but just absolutely blew my mind, to be honest. And then seeing some of the commentary from people like Chicago White Sox pitcher with the crazy name Early Win, the crazy ass name, but him saying it's a phoniest front in 20 years, saying that it's just a money grab and the novelty or wear off, and that the game's values and its uniqueness. He was right, man. And they did end up ending it a few years later. But let me know, did you ever hear about that? Because I did not, guys. And definitely hit the like button, drop a comment. Let me know if you guys like these little today in Chicago Cubs history, because I could do a couple more where I do some other days, not just like Wednesdays, which I've been doing now. But we could also talk about some MLB history. I'm definitely going to do it for the NBA, probably the NFL. But definitely let me know what you guys think. Hit the like button, drop a comment, hit subscribe, tell everybody about the channel, because we're Chicago Cubs fans here. We need some real input, we got nothing behind us, guys. I'm doing this for the love of the game. Please, let's go. And you always got to remember, when you're on the entertainment channel, you got to go crazy. Don't be lazy. And don't be doing nothing fugazi. Deuces. Stay easy.